Part 4. So, after my first marriage, I started seeing how things were handled and really started looking more into how doctrine has changed and continues to change within the organization. Because I was really trying to figure out how I could be divorced, be free to live my life, because I had made a mistake. People make mistakes all the time. And I would say especially Jehovah's Witnesses, because you're not supposed to, the problem, the flaw with it is that you're not supposed to date, until you're ready to get married. But what does that mean? It means that you don't have an opportunity to interact normally with people of the opposite sex. You don't have opportunity to develop naturally around other people. And it creates this really strange dynamic where if you are a single young person and you want to hang out, or you want to be friends or something with somebody, that it's automatically assumed that you guys are like dating or something, or that you're there's never any assumption that you can just hang out with a person of the opposite sex and be friends. And if something develops from that, fine. But everything is so, and I think it's so weird, how frowned upon just normal sexual behavior is by religion, that they actually end up creating the problems themselves by being weird like that. I don't know. So after that, I started doing some research. Now, I had already had doubts about the religion probably when I was 22 or 23, because I had, of course, Jehovah's Witnesses are anti-gay people, and so I had never really been around anybody that was gay. And so I would say that was a major thing for me when I first started working around people that were gay. And I was like, they're not hurting anybody. They just, they love people that are the same gender. I don't understand why this is a bad thing, why it hurts anybody. It doesn't hurt anybody. And they were the nicest people that I worked with. Good people, and I just couldn't wrap my head around why God would be so angry that someone was attracted to a person that had the same anatomy. It didn't make any sense to me. So I started questioning things with that, I would say. And then I took I was still like trying to do college, because Jehovah's Witnesses are anti-college as well. Because they don't think that college is going to, it's not useful for them if you're educated in any way. They just want you to be poor and be pioneers, or go out in service or something like that, all of the time. They want, a lot of witnesses will do cleaning, or they'll do construction, or they'll do just like very low skill type work. It was hard for me anyway, because I always wanted to be an artist, and that was never a thing, that you would never go to school for art. I remember when I was 18 and I was getting close to graduating homeschooling, and I had gotten some brochures from U of L in Louisville, and it was the art school there, and I was really excited, and I showed them to my mom. And at that time, you had to, if you were under a certain age, they automatically counted your parents' income for any type of financial aid. So it was going to depend on if my parents were on board with me doing that. And I showed her the pamphlets, and she just looked at them and like didn't say anything. She looked at them and did not say anything. So I just kind of ended up throwing them away and knew that that was not going to be a possibility for me. But I did always really liked learning, and I liked school, not for the goof off aspect. I just liked learning. So I was always trying to finish my degree. Eventually I do have a bachelor's degree at this point. Finished it later in life. But I did do that. And yeah, so I took a philosophy class, and the instructor was atheist. And he said, what did he say? That he didn't believe in God. And that was like shocking to me. Oh my God, you don't believe in God. And he's like, well, he hasn't talked to me. He hasn't told me anything. He hasn't told me specifically anything that I'm supposed to do or not do. So no, I don't believe in God. I do believe in something higher, not the Judeo-Christian God. I don't believe in that particular God, but I do believe in something higher. But anyway, after taking that class, and we had to do a paper. It was a really long research paper where you had to get up in front of the class and read it, and I did mine on, strangely enough, against blood transfusions, because I was still a witness. And everybody in the class was really polite. This was before people have gotten crazy these days in colleges. Everybody was like really polite. They listened. I could tell that they thought that it was goofy. And then there was like questions and there was debates, and I did get to thinking about it, and I would say that philosophy class, coupled with just life experience of being around people that were different, was what really got me questioning things. And of course, but I was probably 23 at that time, and I didn't leave until I was 27. But you have to think that if you leave all of your family, all of your friends, if you decide that you don't believe it in anymore. So that's why witnesses these days have the word PMO. All this stuff is new to me. Physically in, mentally out is a term that a lot of witnesses use now. So I was kind of trapped in a situation after my first marriage broke up, and I did end up having I think I had another judicial committee after that. And I think they actually had somebody study with me again, because they thought that I needed reindoctrination. That didn't really work out too well, because we started talking about Armageddon and the Holocaust, and I said, I bet the Jews, when they were in the concentration camps, I said, I bet they really thought that it was Armageddon. And she said, yeah, I bet they did. And I just kind of stared at her like, okay, so God let all of these people, or Jehovah's Witnesses and the Jews, Jehovah's Witnesses, all of these people suffer and die, and everybody around them die, only to get out maybe and live the rest of their life, and the end never come. It's like, and actually see things improve after that. I mean, anyway, so that didn't go all that great. And I had a boyfriend that I snuck out to see at that time. And okay, so we're talking at that point, I'm like 26 or something. Well, my mom finds out, and uh, I get kicked out of the house. So at one point, being a Jehovah's Witness, I was basically homeless. Yeah, I got kicked out for that. And you have to think too, like, okay, so normal people that are like not witnesses that have experienced a divorce know what happens when you go through a breakup like that, when your entire life is completely turned upside down, and you go through so much. And really, when I went through the divorce, I had zero sympathy from people, because I met this person, I met the witness on the internet, and he lived in another state. Now, part of the reason why I ended up marrying him was because part of the reason was that my family loved him so much. And I thought, well, I've not been that great at picking people. My family really likes him. He gets along really well with my family. They think that he's a good person. That was part of it. Being a Jehovah's Witness just f's up everything. I mean, so yeah, not to me that they really liked him. They were glad that I married him, but then when it happened, they were like, well, you screwed up. You shouldn't have met somebody online. You shouldn't have married somebody from another state. I was going through so much after that divorce, and not really knowing what direction my life was going to go in. And pretty much the answers I got from people, the support I got, was just like, sucks to be you. So I got a boyfriend. I had a boyfriend that was not a witness, and I snuck out of the house. My mom found out about it. I did go and I confessed, and had like a judicial committee or something with that. Again, and then I saw him again, and was like gone for a while. And my mom read through my journal to figure out where I was at. And I'm almost like in my mid-20s at this point. And yeah, she's like, well, if you need to leave. And I didn't have any place to go. I moved in with a friend for a while. I kind of moved back and forth to these places, and I had a car. I wasn't even sure if my car would make it. My car was falling apart because the good car that I had, my first husband got rid of it. I didn't have a job. I didn't have education, because witnesses. So I was, at that point in my life, I was really effed. I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I got remarried. And yeah, and at that point, the elders wanted to meet with me, of course. And at that point, I was just done. I had already done judicial meetings. I had already been grilled. I'd already been interrogated. They had already tried to study with me. And it just was like, this is not the right thing for me. Now, I will say that when I left, and I moved in with my boyfriend that I married, that I got married to. The feelings that you have when you leave that type of religion, even if you've questioned it before, the anxiety is real, because I had such stress and anxiety. I had to go on anti-anxiety medication when there were storms and stuff, because Jehovah's Witnesses teach the whole Armageddon thing. When there were storms, I thought, okay, this is it. It's Armageddon, and I left, and God's going to kill me. I'm going to get struck by lightning. He's going to kill me now for leaving. You really think that stuff. And you just... when you come out of such a high control environment, and where you're taught, reality is one way, and you discover that it's something completely different, you're really thrown. It's like having the floor just ripped right underneath of you, and you don't know what's real anymore. It's weird. I mean, I suppose if I compare it to anything that I've recently experienced, or probably anything close to what everybody else has experienced, would be COVID. Because you think that there's something safe, or you think that you have something that you can believe in, and then it turns out that it's not there, that you're completely wrong. And yeah, it was very very stressful time in my life. And the elders would stop by the house all the time. They'd leave me notes. They wanted to meet with me. And of course, they're not supposed to disfellowship you until they meet with you. They're not supposed to do that. But as it happened, my grandmother was in a nursing home, and she was getting sicker and sicker, and she passed. And I wasn't able to be there. I wasn't able to be there at that time because my family at that point, I was not disfellowshipped, but they had pretty much shunned me at that point. But my grandmother passed, and it was her memorial service. Jehovah's Witnesses don't really have like a normal funeral where they actually talk about the person. They use it as a way of talking about the truth and what the witness believed, and the resurrection. But I wanted to go, and I wanted to honor my grandmother. So, and I told my mom, I was like, because at that time I was pregnant, and I said, I'll go, and just as long as the elders are not going to talk to me. I was like, because she really wanted me to go. I don't know why she wanted me to go. And I said, I will go. I'd like to go, but I don't want the elders to talk to me. It's not an appropriate time or whatever. What did the elders do? As I was leaving the Kingdom Hall, there was two elders following me. Now, the one elder looked ashamed. He did. He looked ashamed at what they were doing, because this was my grandmother's funeral. But that didn't stop the other elder from following me, and they told me, he just kind of yelled out. He's like, we'll meet you. We've been trying to meet with you, and you've been avoiding us, and yada yada yada. And I'm trying to not talk to them or look at them, and I'm going to my car because it's my grandmother's memorial service. I'm upset. I'm also pregnant. And the one elder is like, well, we'll meet you. We can meet with you Monday. We will meet with you Monday at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And you need to be at the Kingdom Hall. And if you don't meet with us on this day, we're going to announce that you're disfellowshipped. So no, I didn't meet with them. And later on, the sad thing is later on, my dad and another elder stopped by my apartment. This was several years later, and they're like, he didn't handle that right. He shouldn't have done that. That wasn't the right thing to do, yada, yada. It's like, well, he did it. And the rest of the congregation and all of the family decided to not talk to me again after that. So you went along with something that you thought was wrong, but because an elder did it, you accepted it. So you didn't stand up and you didn't say that was the wrong thing to do. You went along with it. It was actually my mom that contacted the elders when I left and told them everything about me. So my mom that didn't want to allow a blood transfusion for me when I was a baby, when they thought that I might need an exchange transfusion due to the possibility of the RH factor. That mother also turned me into the elders at a time when I was probably in the lowest of my life. So, yeah. And yeah, so they announced that I was disfellowshipped, and I really didn't hear too much. Now, before I was technically disfellowshipped, I was pregnant. I would stop over and I would talk to my parents and stuff. I'd spend some time with them, and I thought, hey, maybe they're going to be, they're going to have a grandchild. Maybe it'll be like kind of cool, because they're going to want to spend time with the grandchild. They didn't care about that. I mean, they really didn't. One of my brothers has grandkids, or they have grandkids. He has like 4 kids. Well, they have great grandkids now. But my parents were heavily involved with his kids. And so I suppose, by the time I had my child, it was like, just another one, and it's Jamie, so. The screw up. So, yeah, I mean, I would rarely see her. I would rarely see her all through my pregnancy. She wasn't there for any of the doctor's visits, any of that stuff. When it was close to time for me to have him, she asked me if I wanted her in the delivery room when he was born. Why? You haven't been here the entire time I'm pregnant. And then okay, so if I have him and you're in the delivery room, are we going to be friends again? Are you going to be involved in my life? And of course the answer is no. I mean, sometimes she would show up months later and bring me stuff for him that wouldn't fit him anymore, because she wasn't around enough to see what size he was. And I mean, and we're not talking about, that's just how dysfunctional Jehovah's Witnesses are, because when my brother had his first child, she took 2 weeks off of work to help them. And I saw her like every 6 months or something, if even that, and she would just stop over and she would drop something off that we couldn't use because she didn't know anything that was going on. There wasn't any reason for her to be like that to my son. There wasn't any reason for that. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this here.